And first of all, thank you for joining us at the Marketing Geeks podcast. This particular show is kind of our throwaway show, but it's something that we do every year, and that is that we like to break down just the geekiest junk that we've seen all year, and
Oh yeah.
or read or experienced or just our own personal favorites. So if you want marketing advice, you shouldn't listen to this podcast at all, probably. But
Yeah, but at least listen to a different episode, right?
definitely listen to our different episode. We'll go over some of our favorite episodes, but this is
And
just
we'll mention a thing
Yeah.
or two about marketing in here also.
true. But if you
Maybe.
want to just hear some cool like geek stuff that you may find interesting, this is the podcast for you. Absolutely, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Marketing Geeks.
All of we have 6 of our followers in Canada.
I'm so happy that nobody can hear us while the theme song is playing.
They kind of can.
What? Can they? Can they? Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Yes. Marketing Geeks is back. And this is our yearly retrospective where we like to just kind of break down all the nonsense that when we're not marketing, sometimes we like, we like other geek
When we
things.
do our retrospective, we get introspective, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been a weird year. I mean, in the whole,
Really?
I've spent
Normal to me.
well, I've spent most of that's true for both of us. Even if this year was exactly the same, we'd still be doing, in our houses, not wearing pants.
I mean, I'm more of an introvert than you are, so just introvert, computer nerd, working at home, totally normal year.
That's right. That's right. So why don't we kick it off? You know what I'd like to kick it off with, because we love movies. It's one place that you and I definitely connect. And I am going to play now a clip. This is a clip from last year where we made our predictions of what was going to happen in the movies. And some of it was quite accurate, and others not so much. So just to give you an idea of how life has changed for everybody, this is what we were talking about last year. This is from episode 88, exactly 1 year ago today when we posted it. So here we go.
On a lighter note,
Yeah.
what's your prediction for the box office in 2020? Because we talked about it last week, but we spent like way too much time talking about movies last time.
Yeah.
At least this time we're talking about business the majority of the time. But what's your prediction here? Because we've seen how bad the movies look in 2020, so it's going to be kind of a difficult one to pick. But what's going to be the top earner in the box office? Is it going to be that big of a top earner?
The top earner is probably going to be the Eternals, which will come out at the end of the year. It's the new Marvel movie, the beginning of Phase 4. So I predict that the Eternals is going to crush it. I don't think Black Widow is going to do extremely well, but it's going to do well. I mean, for a movie, but I think it's going to do like Captain Marvel numbers. But I looked over all the movies that were coming out for 2020, like the big tentpole films, and I have to tell you, I am not excited. I predict that this year will be the year that will that people will look back on as like that was near the beginning of the end for the cinema experience. I think it's going to go more towards streaming at this point.
Now, I hate these movies, but I think the top earner of 2020 is going to be the Fast and the Furious 9.
Oh, absolutely.
But the dark horse that I'd like to see become the number one earner in 2020 would be the movie Tenet, which is Christopher Nolan's movie, which I don't really even know what that's about. So I think if the reviews come in positive and everybody rallies behind it, it's got a chance.
Yeah.
But that's the dark horse. So I'd like to see an actual good movie do well in 2020 and be the top in the earner in the box office.
Yeah.
Okay, so your prediction was that Fast and the Furious was going to be the top earner this year, and it did not even come out.
Well, to be fair, I mean, in a parallel universe, it was the top earner in 2020, in the universe where, COVID didn't quite make it over to the US. But I will tell you this. Everything I said in that clip, and I couldn't hear a word of it when you were playing it, but I listened to it before we recorded, so I know what I said, was accurate, except it's just delayed by 1 year. So everything I just said is the exact same prediction I have for 2021, except starting January 1st, 2021, till the end. So, Fast and the Furious 9, the same movie, is going to be the number one box office earner. Avatar 1 is going to be re-released at the end of the year, and the trailer for Avatar 2 will still be rolling out with the Avatar 1 re-release, and Avatar 1 will overtake Avengers Endgame as the number one movie of all time. James Cameron will return to his throne, and balance will be returned to the Force.
I don't know, man. I really don't know, because the thing is that it's going to be a hard ask to get people into the movie theaters, right? And
it doesn't matter. You're talking about the number one box office. If somebody's going to win it. It doesn't mean they're going to make 300 million. They could make 50 million.
Yeah.
Fast and the Furious is still going to outsell everything else because people love dumb movies where cars run or fly in the sky and Vin Diesel says a line. And
the family. The family.
It was just so good. I can't get enough.
The family.
And so there's an explosion like brew, brah, boom. People love that.
And I predicted that, of course, Black Widow and Eternals would be up at the top. And I think you're right. Like, all my predictions just were pushed back. But for the movies that you did see, give me a rundown, because you haven't seen too many movies this summer. So give me this is the best of show. Tell me the best things that you've seen movie-wise all year, if you can.
In the theater,
yeah,
I believe I saw it. I might have saw 2 movies, but the only one I remember seeing, so I'm going to call this the number one movie at the theater in 2020, was Birds of Prey, the Harley Quinn movie, which I thought was, I went in with like low expectations. And I came out thinking, wow, that wasn't bad.
Really?
So very possible. I have not revisited the film ever since watching it. It's very possible that I just had such low expectations that I thought it was better than it was because of that. And that's happened to me before. So it's very possible. But I actually quite enjoyed it. I thought Ewan McGregor was pretty funny in it. He played Black Mask. And then his little sidekick guy was funny. It was Victor Zsasz, but he totally different take on the character. It was, I enjoyed it. Then again, I'm telling you, my expectations were below zero. So sometimes my, the reality of it may be off when that happens to me. I can sometimes overestimate how good something is.
Well, I have to tell you, I too went in with very, very low expectations, and I have to tell you, my expectations were met. So, yeah, I
in the theater though. I saw the theater.
Now that said, my expectations for James Gunn's Suicide Squad reboot are very high, and I have a feeling they will be met. So.
I'm hearing good things, but I also heard good things about Wonder Woman 1984
oh, God.
coming up. I haven't seen it yet. I still haven't seen Wonder Woman 1984, but I've heard terrible things ever since it's been released. But there was a lot of positive hype coming into it ahead of time. But I have not seen it, so I cannot judge it quite yet. I do have HBO Max, so I have access to it. Apparently, it's only streaming on HBO Max until January 21st, so I actually have a limited window. I didn't realize this, but I do. So I gotta watch it pretty soon.
Let me tell you something. That you know how a movie's so bad you leave the theater? That movie was so bad I had to leave my house.
Wonder Woman, you watched it. You started it?
I
hit play? Hit the play button.
Look, I used to work in the movie industry, and I did test marketing for films, and you can smell a stinker a mile away. You really can. And I just say no. But so I'm going on record. This is my prediction. Hopefully I'll play it next year. My prediction for next year is that Suicide Squad 2 will be unbelievably good. It will be probably the best superhero movie of the year. So that is my prediction for 2021.
I don't think that's that outlandish. I've heard really good things about people that have seen the test screenings. I'm hearing great things from the set. So
James Gunn, he's great.
I read a lot of geeky movie websites. So James Gunn is a talented dude, and he's the director of Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. If you don't know who he is, he also laid out a tweet from 10 years ago that got him almost kicked out of the Marvel team, but then he was salvaged because his reputation on set won him back over with the Disney execs.
He almost
It sounds
got
like he's a pretty good guy.
yeah.
He's got a dark sense of humor, but he's a good guy. But a lot of us have dark senses of humor, so I'm all good with that.
That's true, and I've been thinking a lot about cancel culture lately because a lot of people on the right are like cancel culture. They're trying to cancel everything. And, I was thinking about
this.
Marketing
Geeks. And
God,
so much
I wish somebody
millions of tweets.
I wish somebody would. Otherwise, I got to keep coming back here. The funny thing about, just to go on a small tangent, the thing about cancel culture is that if you believe in the market forces, the invisible hand of the market forces, if you truly believe that the market forces should dictate what happens, then you should have no problem with cancel culture. Because the thing is that if people don't want to buy your stuff anymore because they're offended by you, that is the free hand of the marketplace doing its thing, right? So
I would agree with that, yeah.
So I
guess the argument would be if it's like government political involvement, I guess would be the argument. I'm just trying to think of the counter argument here. That would be what I would come up with.
Yeah, but they're not.
It still is like, even with that though, it's still your decision. It's still based on the market. Laissez-faire.
Exactly. So look, if you have a problem with J.K. Rowling suddenly being transphobic, and you don't want to buy her books anymore, and you think she should be canceled, well, you have a right to not buy her stuff and protest it online. Don't dox her. Don't go to her house and do crazy shit. Don't confront her, but you are free to express your opinion and not buy her stuff. And that's a good point,
though. A good line to draw is like doxing is a good line to draw. That's too far.
Or affecting someone. Make you threatening someone's life. Come on, people. Let's be adults here. But my favorite movies of the year. So let me go over quickly what those were, because I did see quite a number of movies. I saw Queen and Slim, which was a little independent film about two people on a Tinder date for the first time who this black couple, they don't really get along, and on the way home they accidentally get into an altercation with a cop. And the guy ends up shooting the cop, and next thing you know, they're on the run. That was a pretty good movie. I also enjoyed. I just saw it the other day. I highly recommend it. Palm Springs. I think it's on Amazon, and it's oh God, what's his name? not Adam Sandler. Guy from Saturday Night Live. No. Adam. No.
What's his name? Adam, like the short guy.
Yeah, the guy that does the digital shorts all the time.
That guy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, Palm Springs.
The guy that did the ambiguously gay duo and those ones.
I think so. Yeah. Anyway, it's great. Palm Springs is a wonderful movie. It's kind of like. Somebody was a big fan of Groundhog Day and just thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if it was Groundhog Day, but it had these other elements in it? Like you were stuck in Groundhog Day with another person. What would that be like? Did
you watch the Twilight Zone this year? The new episode?
I didn't. I didn't see any of it.
One of them was like a Groundhog Day redo, where it's I don't want to give too much away, but Topher Grace. I think it was Topher. Yeah, Topher Grace is the guy. It's actually, that episode was probably one of the better ones. I've heard a lot of people hating on the second season of Twilight Zone. I enjoyed a few of them. I think some of them were bad, some of them were good, but that one was actually kind of funny because it was like a little bit of a dark take on Groundhog Day.
Well, I'll definitely see it. I want to find out your television takes.
But I got more movies too. So I got some more.
Okay. Other movies that I thought were outstanding this year. Let me think. Josh Stickel's movie, who was a guest on our show. He came out with a new film called Kiss the Ground. Got to plug that.
It hit Netflix. It hit Netflix. That's a big deal. Hitting Netflix is a big deal.
Yeah, it's a really good documentary. Of course, The Social Dilemma, which I thought was incredibly impactful. If you haven't seen that, you must see that. I saw, even though it came out a few years ago, I think, the China Hustle, based on your recommendation. We had one of the people from two of the people. That's right, from the China Hustle were guests on our show. Those were great episodes. So
We had Dan David and Carson Block from the movie The China Hustle. I also watched that in like around January or February of this year for the first time, and then we just reached out and brought them on the show. And those are amazing interviews for anyone interested. I'd say that that goes into a little bit of marketing, but a lot of just like the stock market and market manipulation and the fraud that goes on in Wall Street or behind the scenes, not necessarily Wall Street, but behind the scenes.
Yeah, that was episode Marketing Geeks episode 116, which would dropped August 22nd of this last year, 2020. That was a really great show. So anyway, I highly recommend those. I also just recently saw Soul on Disney Plus, and I really liked it.
I really enjoyed the beginning of it. I have a 2-year-old, so
yeah,
we couldn't keep him engaged the entire time, but I need to go finish it. So I really like the beginning of it.
Yeah. Well, you got to give your kid Adderall, man. He's at the age. What is he now? 3?
That's right. He's not quite 3, 2.5.
Okay. Another 6
months. Yeah, maybe another like 2 3/4, kind of the Adderall.
Sure. Get him on the Adderall and antidepressants like most 3-year-olds nowadays. So yeah, Soul was super good. Pixar pulled it off again. The movie had a lot of heart.
Now, did you see Mulan, the live action Mulan? I did not.
Did see Mulan, and I felt well. Okay, for those of you who don't know about Mulan, there was a few problems with the movie. First of all, when they created the movie, they made it specifically for the Chinese market. Part of the I guess the feedback that Disney has received through the years is that they whitewash a lot of the roles, where they put white actors in the roles where should be traditionally Asian roles, or and I think that actually is something that goes too far. Like, well, should we get gay people to portray gay people in the movies? It's like, oh my god.
Well, if you recall, I think it was last year, Scarlett Johansson got cast as a trans person, and there was such backlash that she had to back out of the movie. And then now I think the movie's not going to get made.
Well,
that's what can happen though too. Is if you take it too far, then the entire movie doesn't get made, and then the whole subject doesn't get covered.
Which actually I kind of agree with, because I've seen a lot of beautiful trans people, but nobody's Scarlett Johansson beautiful. You can't make that kind of transition and be realistic with it. Come on now. But I as far as Mulan goes, it was made for the Chinese market. They did use like famous Chinese actors, but the trouble is it was right around the time that China was taking over Hong Kong, and it was also during the time when they found out that the place that they were filming it was where there was a lot of concentration camps for Muslim Uyghurs. And it became a bit of a sticky issue. So, and then of course the people in China rejected the film outright as well. The
actress though came out in support of the
Chinese government,
the People's Republic of China. Yeah. So she came out in support of China. And then that created a whole conflict with all the Hong Kong protesters. So yeah, it was really bad timing.
Yeah, bad timing all around. And then they also Disney wanted to experiment by charging extra for the movie. So it was a disaster all the way around. The movie itself, not bad. Just objectively, it was okay. I
heard this is how it was described in a review I read. It was like everything the animated movie was, except minus the fun and the music.
Yeah. It was kind of like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon light, Anyway, it was
everything that makes it good. It's Mulan 2.0 minus all the good stuff.
Yeah. So I did not put that on my list. As far as I did see a movie that came out last year, Peanut Butter Falcon with Shia LaBeouf, was super good. Absolutely loved that movie. And I finally saw Train to Busan, which is a fantastic zombie picture if you've never seen it. And another movie that I really loved is a foreign film called Woman at War, which is about a woman who lives in a small village in Iceland, and she goes to war with a giant corporation that wants to build power lines through this pristine land. I thought that was really a great movie. So
Is it a ripoff of Aaron Brockovich though?
no, it is not.
Okay, just checking.
It's yeah, no. It's but the overall I don't know. I did see something. It's hard now because movies and TV shows are kind of blending. As I said in my little clip, the death of the movie industry, which I was correct on. But some of the best stuff I've seen were actually just like TV shows and series. So as far as probably the best thing I saw all year was The Queen's Gambit on Netflix. That blew the doors off of pretty much anything. So that to me, I'm putting that as like the number one thing that I probably saw all year.
Yeah, and I still haven't seen it. So I think everything I saw was just bad for the most part. But I mean, there's different levels of bad, and that's what we have to judge things by. So if we have to call things that are the best of the bad, that's why Birds of Prey is up there on the list. But I did see Tenet. I think we mentioned this in the last episode. I just want to bring it up briefly. That Tenet, I enjoyed Tenet. I think, again, it's overly convoluted. They didn't need to make it as complex as they made it. They could have simplified the plot a little bit so that your everyday person could understand it a little bit better. And I think that would have benefited the movie overall, especially the box office. Although, given the circumstances, I don't know that anything could have benefited the box office. So it was kind of a rough time just to release movies in general. I think the thing with Tenet, though, is I think they're going to try to re-release it. And I think it's going to fail again just because it's already been released now. Most people have had a chance to see it. I don't think people care that much whether they see it in the theater or not in the theater, even though it's filmed. A good chunk of it's filmed with IMAX cameras, so it's designed for a theatrical experience. I still think there's not enough of a demand to go see it again. So I don't see that succeeding, even if they re-release it. The other movies I saw are a bunch of crap, including Escape Room, which was entertaining crap. I saw Ready or Not. Now, this one is good.
I love that movie. That was actually I did.
And this is the one with the girl from The Babysitter, who she gets married, and then there's like this family tradition where they have to play a board game the night a new family member enters the family, and if they draw hide and seek, then
they get hunted,
played for life or death.
Yeah, it was
entertaining.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun movie. I really enjoyed it. And as far as like good like thrillers, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that movie. I highly recommend it. Ready or Not. I mean, overall though, it's like I hope that COVID does one thing, which is making people realize that an over the top giant movie, just because it's over the top and giant, doesn't necessarily make it good. It really comes down to the story. Tenet, I think, was an interesting
Andros,
premise.
you're so wrong. You're so wrong. Just watch what Fast and the Furious does.
Of course.
I promise you there will be no story involved in that movie. I promise you.
Oh, there'll be a story. It'll be about, crossing the line with a family.
It'll be about family. Family.
But interesting note about Tenet. One of the very interesting things about it is that in one sequence, I'm not giving away anything, but in one sequence, there's a giant plane, a 747, that runs into a building and blows up. And initially, they were going to do the whole thing in CG, but apparently Christopher Nolan found that it would be too expensive and it would be cheaper to actually get a plane and run it into a building and blow it up than it would be to create the sequence in CG. So for that, the practical effects are still awesome. And then a couple of throwback movies that I watched and I really liked. I showed my kid Gremlins. He was old enough finally to see Gremlins, which to me is the second greatest Christmas movie of all time, next to Die Hard.
Behind Batman Returns.
That's right. So that was fun. Just, I've been going back and I'm showing my son certain movies that I grew up with, like Midnight Cowboy, things like that.
Nice.
Have you ever seen Midnight Cowboy?
I have not. I've not seen Midnight Cowboy. Is that Travolta?
No,
right?
that is John
Not
Voight.
Travolta?
No, it's John Voight and
What is that? Urban Cowboy Travolta? Is that the one?
that's the one.
Okay. I haven't seen either one.
That's the one. So
I'll give it a shot. Midnight Cowboy's on my list. Maybe.
yeah.
Let's talk TV though, because I do have some TV.
Yeah, so Queen's Gambit was it for me. Handmaid's Tale, we didn't get another episode of Handmaid's Tale, but still a great show that was still on the top of my list. And then as far as any other series or movie, I can't even think, man. There's nothing really like there's so many things that are good and then they just die off. But the one thing that really stuck out to me, and I think it's one of the best experiences I had all year,
Tell me.
The Boys. The Boys knocked it out of the park. And one of the reasons you haven't seen it,
No, I haven't seen it.
It's so good. It is so good. And the one of the reasons why is because with a lot of shows, and this is what happened to me with Westworld. Westworld was great, but like season 2 and even season 3, it was just a little too long. Like they could have trimmed out 4 episodes and I would have been fine with it. The Boys was 8 episodes and there was no fat. They could have dragged it out to 13 episodes. 8 episodes, very tight. The writing was stellar. I love the characters. I love the premise. So you need to see The Boys, man, because you would love it. It is honestly the best thing out I've seen all year. Ever.
Yeah, I need to see that. For me, Better Call Saul #1. I love Better Call Saul. So this was season 5 or 6. I don't even remember. But they have one more season left. So the next season is the end of the show. I loved it. I don't know what the situation is with filming and COVID and all that, so I don't know when it's going to come out. But I loved it. Awesome show. I have watched 0 Mandalorian, and I don't even care to watch it because I'm just tired of all that crap right now.
Mm-hmm.
The other one I like was Dark season 3. So I'm a huge fan of the Dark series. Dark season 3, mostly, it wasn't the masterpiece that I was hoping for the whole thing to come together and be, but it was pretty damn good. So the whole 3-season arc of Dark, I like that, was awesome. I highly recommend that show on Netflix. It's a German show, so it's in German. You can watch it with subtitles, or you can watch very badly dubbed English audio, which I watched the bad English dubbed audio. I survived it. It's your pick your poison, but it's a really well written show, and I quite enjoyed it. It's pretty high level. I'm trying to, and then I watched, with the 2-year-old, we watched Camp Cretaceous Jurassic World or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually pretty decent. It's like 8 episodes. It's CGI on Netflix. It just came out at the end of the year. And I think season 2 is already rolling out like in a couple weeks. So that was okay. And then like Word Party season 3, awesome. Just awesome. Word Party. Word Party.
So,
hey, if you have 2-year-olds, that's what you watch.
I know,
right?
you watch a lot of stuff. Did you read any books? Any books this year that you read?
I don't remember. I can't even remember it. That's how good they are. I don't know. Come back to me on that. What you got? Maybe,
oh man, I have a huge list. Some of these are old school. So Kindred by Octavia Butler. About a woman who wakes up and she's a black woman, and she wakes up and she's in the South 150 years ago, and she lives on a plantation, and she has to figure out a way to get back. And she gets transferred over with her husband, who's white, and it's a classic book. I read The Hobbit to my son, who loved it, which is good. I reread that. I read one of my dad's books that I haven't read before, a book called Venus Plus X, which is about a guy who wakes up in a utopia, and what his views are on this utopia and how they deal with him, and that was pretty good. Also by my dad, I wrote Theodore Sturgeon. I read a book called Some of Your Blood, which allegedly was the inspiration for Silence of the Lambs, about a guy who's convinced that he's a vampire, but he's really a serial killer. I read the Dark Tower series by Stephen King, all 7 books, which very entertaining, not great, but definitely entertaining. Some more serious things I read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, about famous book about a guy who spends his time in a concentration camp. While he was there, he's a psychologist, and he kind of made his thesis around how people deal with stress when they're in a situation like that.
I need to reread. I read that like 2010. I need to reread that one.
It's amazing. And directly on the heels of that, I read Milton Mayer's book, They Thought They Were Free, which was about a guy who, during and just after the war, he was a journalist who interviewed people who were in the Nazi Party and tried to figure out why they became Nazis. And they're just normal people. And that is really interesting, because if you wonder like how people convert into fascism, how they turn themselves over to fascism, this really explains it. And it's not as simple as you may think. So one of the, and then I reread Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins, which I highly recommend. Every American should read that. If you really want to know how geopolitics works in America, read Confessions.
What year was that written?
That was written in the 80s or early 90s, and it's about a guy who worked for the International Monetary Fund. His job was to basically go into a government and say, hey, you've got all these resources, and the International Monetary Fund will come in and we'll build you an airport, we'll build you sanitation, and we'll build you power plants and hospitals. And in return, you put up for collateral your resources in your country. And when they make the numbers look really good, and inevitably these countries would default on their loans. And of course, when they do, then we go in and steal all their stuff. And if the governments do not agree, or the president or the elected leaders do not agree with that idea, then they send in the jackals to do their job, which is, assassinate democratically elected individuals. So it's interesting because you can trace what's happening in Venezuela and Latin America, and the reason that people are coming up to America right now from those countries is as a direct result of stuff that America did during that time, during the 70s and early 80s, the secret wars that were happening. And it's an incredible story of history lesson that nobody really talks about. So highly recommend that book. I also came across something really interesting. This is in the, I subscribe to the Audible all you can listen books on audio. And Alien 3 was, there was a draft of Alien 3 that was written by William Gibson, and they did an audio version of it with the original cast. And it is the Alien 3 that we should have had. Because the one thing that William Gibson introduced, which I think was missing from the Alien universe, is that everybody works for the company in the Alien universe. Like the whole, no matter where you are, you work for the company, which I guess ultimately is Amazon or Disney or both. They just merge, and so it gets into like who's fighting that. So it gets into the rebel forces that are actually trying to fight the company, and both of them want to get a hold of the alien embryos so they can use it as a weapon, and of course it goes sideways. But I really enjoy that. And then there's a series of science fiction books called We Are Legion, Dennis E. Taylor, also known as the Bobbyverse Quartet. Great book. And I am currently finishing a new book, just came out this year, and it is called The Vanished Birds by Simon Jimenez. And it's a sci-fi book, probably one of the better things I've read this year. So that's my reading list. And then in between, I had a whole bunch of other stuff that I read and listened to, and some stuff I'll give my full review later. So
nice. For me, I was gonna say that for books, I pulled up a couple here that I couldn't remember the titles, but I got them up, and I mean most of them are more like textbooks. So copywriting, a couple of the ones are copywriting books. The 16-word sales letter, which is a proven method of writing multi-million-dollar copy faster than you ever thought possible, by Evaldo Albuquerque. I don't even know Albuquerque.
Mhm.
I don't know how to say his last name. But awesome book on copywriting, on the subject of copywriting. I also got a couple books by Gary Halbert on copywriting. And then another book I got is by Dane Maxwell, Start from Zero, which I quite enjoyed. And I listened to a few episodes of his podcast, checked out his book, and I thought that was a pretty solid book. For me, though, I'd say most of my learning, things like that. I mean, I spent a lot of time watching YouTube videos and like interviews with CEOs and lots of that kind of stuff this year. I also got a book on evolutionary psychology, which is like a textbook that I'm very fascinated on that subject as well. So a lot of kind of like textbooks and less casual reading this last year. I think this year I'm going to be doing a lot more of like traditional business books because we were just talking before we started recording about how we both have a ton of books in our audio, in our
Yeah.
Audible accounts. So I got plenty of business books to catch up on. And I think in 2019, I read quite a few business books. 2020, I definitely slowed down. And there's probably one or two that I'm forgetting that I did on Audible as well this year. But I think in 2021, I'm going to be doing a lot more audio business books, and in a combination of also more, textbooks and things like that too.
So, what was your biggest takeaway, like your biggest lesson for 2020? If you were to boil it all down, what was the best thing that you learned all year?
I mean, a couple things here. So, number one, that business success is tied to your ability to be flexible and your ability to flexibility and adaptability are really important for business. I mean, we've watched companies like in the restaurant industry, for instance, or the travel industry. The ones that were flexible and adaptable are the ones that are still thriving, or they're at least they're still surviving. They're going to survive this. They're going to weather the storm, and they'll be positioned to dominate when everything comes back, because they'll be the ones that have everything kind of in order. They'll have the reputation and all that. And some of the businesses have gone under, and there's a lot of people that are buying businesses that are down and out right now, and that's part of capitalism. The other thing I would say is just, well, why don't you do one and I'll come back to my second one, because I had something else I'm trying to remember exactly.
Yeah, I mean, pivoting, being flexible, and I mentioned this in the last episode. Is that at the beginning of the year, I had some clients that were like, "Okay, this is our plan for the year," and I helped them like strategize the whole thing, and then we immediately had to throw that whole thing out the window, and rather than being reactive to what was going on, we became, I grabbed the flag and became proactive, where we just created content, did more live streaming stuff, just, made things happen. And, that was really it. And I think that the biggest takeaway for me also in general was that I think that people in general are very tired of the system, the way that it runs right now, the whole system. And I think that we are potentially ready to stop being so selfish and start looking at one another and being more inclusive, because we have seen what the full breadth of unrestrained capitalism looks like. And it's not good. It's harmful. And the truth is that if we had some sort of, especially in America, if we had some sort of national healthcare system, we wouldn't have the problems we're having right now. And here in the Netherlands, the economy is we've had some hard lockdowns. We're in the middle of a hard lockdown right now, but overall, people are okay with it, and the economy's been pretty good, and things have been rolling along, limping along a little bit, but it's nothing like other countries. So that's been an eye opener.
On that economic note, one of the other things I learned is that the stock market is not connected to the economy.
That's bananas.
The health of the stock market is unconnected to the health of the economy, as we learned from March till now.
Yeah.
Because we went into one of the worst GDP quarters in history. If it wasn't, what was it, like -40% or something like bananas?
Yeah.
And the market was boop going up. And so like, I mean, there's just an utter disconnection between the economic conditions and the market conditions in the stock market, which is something I never understood. And I still don't really understand. But but there's no denying that was the case this year, because if you just watch the market, I mean, the market is up for the year. Our stock market is up from 2020 at the beginning to the end.
I know that
alone is insane.
That's not reality. That's,
and then beyond, yeah, that just is crazy. And then beyond that, I learned that I have perfect stock market and crypto investing instincts, but they're backwards.
That's right. So you need to tell me what you plan to invest in, and I will make sure not to invest in that.
So I actually got up to 0.6 Bitcoin, and I sold it last week at 28,000, which actually did pretty well. So I actually made about 200% profit. But like today, as we're recording this, it's like 36,000. If I had held it for like 5 more days, I would have made like an extra $6,000, because I also had some Ethereum. So with all of it, I cost myself $6,000 by not holding it for 5 days.
What's Bitcoin up to right now?
36,000.
No way, really?
Yeah, it's more than, what is that? So that's almost doubled its previous all-time high.
Wow.
So its previous all-time high was like 19,700. Coming into that was back in 17, I think December 2017, and then right now it's like doubled that.
Crazy.
So I sold it. I sold it 28,000. I mean, I made a nice little profit. It was against a lot of people. I mean, I was being recommended not to do it, and I trusted my perfect instincts, and I was wrong. However, you never know. I might be right. Like maybe it crashes later on, and then I'm like, at least I got out of 28 suckers.
Anything else to wrap up your best of 2020?
No, not really. I think that's about it. I also failed with Airbnb. I bought their IPO. The thing crashed. Then I came back to even, and I sold it. Pretty much broke. I think I ended up losing like $50 on it. And then if I had held on to that one also, then that thing also like went up. I would have made a couple of $1,000s there also. So I made a few badly timed decisions in the stock market, but overall I actually made money this year, which is pretty good. But I think it was hard to lose money this year, because everything, if you bought toward the bottom, like everybody that did that made money. So like even when you make horrible stock investing decisions, sometimes you can still make money. That's a good lesson right there.
Yeah, it's just a gamble though, and I've never been comfortable with that, and I don't know. I'm like the worst. I'm the worst. I'm just too impulsive. Like I get into like, I'm like, I'm gonna hold Bitcoin forever. Nothing's gonna make me sell. And then like 2 days later, I'm like, I'm selling it all. Well, the next episode of Marketing Geeks, I just want to give a little plug. We actually have the guy who is the CEO of an audio deepfake company, and he was the one who put the company together, and they used that technology for the new episode of Mandalorian with young Luke Skywalker. And he'll explain.
What?
Yeah.
Who? Why is he in there?
I don't know, man. Ask me if I care. Like,
oh my gosh, is that some kind of a spoiler?
I grew up on Star Wars. I loved it, and now
I already had it spoiled for me before that. But I mean, I haven't even seen. I've seen one episode of season 1, and I told you, I will not watch it ever again, because that show is made to sell toys, and I don't watch things that are made to sell toys unless they're like. Unless it's like Word Party.
It does. Ladies and gentlemen, we are the Marketing Geeks, and thank you again for being part of the show. We will continue our regularly scheduled program in the next.
Make sure to buy our toys.
Yes.
Make sure to buy our Marketing Geeks action figures.
We have a baby Justin Womack figure ready to go, and. It's cute. You can cuddle with it.
And a porg. We have Andros porgs. Andros Sturgeon porgs.
That's right.
From episode 8, whatever they are, the little furry cute things from the Last Jedi.
Yeah.
We've made Andros' face onto a porg.
That's right. You can get a Star Wars costume of me. It's fantastic. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are the Marketing Geeks, and we are out.
Stay blessed. Rocking out.
Almost 10 seconds. I gotta
us out. Let's go.
Play us out. Do it live.